In this video, we shall discuss on the backward shift operator of time series. So in time series, we have what is called the backward shift operator and the forward shift operator. But we'll be starting with the backward shift operator. So what is the backward shift operator? For more on this topic, you need to subscribe to this channel. The backward shift operator B is defined as the backward shift operator B is defined as BXT to be equal to XT minus 1. It then means that BNXT is equal to XT minus N. So it then means that how does this operate? Once you have B here, it's as if you have an invisible one, that means this B raised to the power of 1. So because of the shift operator, it becomes XT minus 1. So that is how it works. That is how it works. So it then means that, hence, it then means that B3 ft is equal to xt minus 3. Bv xt is equal to xt minus z. Very easy to complete. Very easy to complete. That is what we call the backward shift. That is how the operator works. Now, we also have what is called the backward difference. Backward difference. Backward difference operator. Backward difference operator. So the backward difference operator, what it does is that it transforms non-stationary model to stationary ones by using the past observations of time series analysis. By using the past observations. So this backward difference can be defined or can be written as this. The backward difference is equal to 1 minus b. So it simply means what it simply means is that if we have this operator xt, we'll have 1 minus b into xt. So all we need to do is to write this out. This will give us xt, this multiplied by this minus, because of this b, what we have written here, how the operator works, we'll now write it as xt minus 1. Xt minus 1. Because this is supposed to give us something like this, xt minus bxt. So we now arrive at this. So that means that this operator is equal to this. Also, we take another one. If we have an operator of this form, xt, it simply means 1 minus b xt. So if we have an operator of this form, we have this is raised to the power of 2. Since we have an operator to be 1 minus b, or elsewhere, the next thing to do is for we to expand this first. To expand this, how do we expand it? So we write it as 1 minus b into 1 minus b xt. So the next thing we do, we have to move over to this side of the board to do that. For more on this topic, you need to subscribe to this channel. For more on time series, you need to subscribe to this channel. So all we need to do is just to expand. To expand what we have there, we have our operator squared xt is equal to 1 minus b as a lemma minus b 1 1 multiplied by negative b is just negative b. Negative b multiplied by 1 is then negative b and plus we have b squared. So our xt is still there. All we need to do is to write this as properly. We have it as 1 minus negative b will give us 2 negative 2b plus b squared xt. So it simply means that we have this to be. Now, very simple. We say if we multiply this, we have xt negative 2b xt plus b squared xt. From what we know, from what we know, we already have xt here, negative 2. Because of this, we can write it as, because our purpose is x p minus 1. Because of this, plus, now we have x t minus 2. Since bxt is equal to xt minus 1. So since we know this becomes our expansion for this operator. So with this, we can use the backward shift difference and the backward shift operator, whichever way we want it. Whichever way we want it. That is how it operates. That is how it operates. So finally, you can just write, let's delete this side of the board. For more on this topic, you need to subscribe to this channel. So finally, we just need to note what we've written before. Um, BNXT is equal to XT minus N. BNXT is equal to XT minus N, written before then. B squared XT equal to XT minus 2. B3 XT is equal to HT minus 3. So it's very simple. Whatever you write here, whether you have the sign X, sorry, if you have W here, you can write XT minus W. So this is how the backward shift operator works. This is how the backward shift operator works. So the next thing to do is to talk about the forward shift operator. The backward shift operator is just the opposite of the forward shift operator. So you have to delete this side of the board to do that. For more on this topic, you need to subscribe to this channel. So both the backward shift and the forward shift, they are all easy to compute. Very easy to compute. Forward shift operator. So the forward shift operator is used to perform inverse operator in time series analysis. Then the forward shift operator, that is the forward shift operator, is used to perform the inverse operator in time series and is given as f is equal to b raised to the power of 1. Then we can write the forward shift operator of xt is equal to xt plus 1. It's just the opposite. Hence, also f of n xt is equal to xt minus xt plus n. Well, the backward shift operator, we have the negative sign here, but the forward shift operator, we have the positive sign here. That is how it operates. They are just opposite of each other. Now, it then means that, note, f raised to the power of 2xt will be equal to xt minus n plus 2. F raised to the power of z xt is equal to xt plus z. That is it. Now, we also have what is called the forward difference operator. Forward difference operator. The forward difference operator. Forward difference operator. This time is not like this time is this way. So that is the operator. How does it work? It works just opposite as the backward shift. It works opposite just the way the backward shift works. That is how this works, but just in the opposite way. Now we have this to be 1 minus b, our operator to be xt. Now, how do we compute this? In this case, we have this to be xt minus bxt. Now, the difference between this operator and the backward shift operator is the sign we have to write. This is equal to xt minus xt plus 1. xt plus 1. So that is how the forward shift operator works. Also, we can also write we can also write also we can also write this to be You can also write something like this. If you have a difference operator of this form, it's the same thing as 1 minus b raised to the power of 2 ft. So we expand it the way we expand every other thing. From quadratic equation, we'll have this to be 1 minus b into 1 minus b multiplied by ft. So we can open this bracket to give us 1 negative b plus b squared ft, which is equal to ft negative multiplied by negative b, which is b xt, sorry. Let's finish with the quadratic. So we can have this to be equal to 1 minus 2b, this and this negative b plus b squared xt. So this will give us this. Now we move over to this side of the board to complete this. Move over to this side of the board. For more on this topic, we need to subscribe to this channel. So we'll have our difference operator squared xt to be equal to xt minus 2b xt plus b squared xt is equal to xt. Since we are using the forward shift operator, we have 2xt plus 1, then plus xt plus 2. So this becomes our forward shift operator. This becomes our forward shift operator. So this is how we compute the backward shift and the forward shift operators and shift in time series. We can also note, that the shift operator for xt, the forward operator for xt is equal to xt plus 1. So we use b here because of this. We use b. We would have used f if we wish. We would have used f to complete this. But it's still the same thing. They are all shift operators. So that you understand it better. So if we use f, if we put f, here will become f, here will become f. You can also do that to make it look sweet. Okay? You don't get confused. So fm xt is equal to xt plus n. That is how it is. Now, we also have our forward shift, which is equal to z. It's the same thing as xt to be equal to xt plus z. Also, if we have f of raised to the power of 3xt, it's the same thing as xt plus 3. Now, why I said this difference operator, you can work it out by using f. It doesn't mean the item is used here. So we can still work this out. For example, let's take a similar question. For example, we have our forward operator to be st, so that we don't get confused. because I'm just seeing some questions now. We can write it as 1 minus x, then xt. So it then means that all the process we went through there, we will do it there. So we just understand how the operator works. The next thing to do is to open the brackets from quadratic equation, then xt, which is the same thing as 1 minus f minus f minus f squared, which is the same thing as 1 minus 2f minus f squared, which is the same thing as xt minus 2f xt minus f raised to the power of 2xt, which is the same thing as xt minus 2xt plus 1, sorry, this is plus xt plus 2. So this becomes our forward operator. It becomes our forward operator for this. So this is simply how we can compute both the backward shift operator and the forward shift operator if we are given such type of questions. For more on this topic, you need to subscribe to this channel.